Close your eyes. Let your mind drift. Tonight we're diving into a strange and mysterious world, one where reality bends, perception warps, and the mind plays tricks you never even noticed before. These aren't just ordinary games. They're illusions, paradoxes, and psychological experiments that will make you question everything you think you know about yourself. But don't worry. There's nothing to solve here, nothing to resist. Just let the thoughts flow, like ripples in a quiet lake. The more you listen, the more your mind will loosen its grip, drifting deeper into a place of calm curiosity. Some of these games will challenge your perception, others will reveal hidden layers of your subconscious, and a few might stay with you long after you wake up. So just breathe, let go, and allow yourself to sink into the bizarre, fascinating world of mind games. The invisible gorilla experiment. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, feeling at ease, watching a simple video. A group of people is passing a basketball back and forth. The task is simple. Just count how many times they pass the ball. It seems like a game of focus, of attention. You watch intently, following the ball as it moves from one person to another, keeping track, making sure you don't miss a single pass. Your mind narrows in on the task, tuning out everything else. The world fades, and it's just you, the players, and the ball. You're in control, focused, aware, or at least you think you are. Then the video ends, and a voice asks, "Did you see the gorilla?" Confused, you shake your head. What gorilla? You replay the video, and there it is, clear as day. A person in a full-body gorilla suit walks straight into the middle of the scene, beats their chest, and strolls off. But somehow, you never saw it. It was there the whole time, right in front of you, and yet it was invisible. Not because it was hidden, not because it was subtle, but because your mind never even registered it. This is the invisible gorilla experiment, one of the most mind-bending psychological tricks ever designed. It's not just a clever illusion, it's a wake-up call. It reveals something unsettling about your mind, that attention is not what you think it is. That seeing is not believing. That reality is not as solid as it seems. Right now, as you lie there, your mind is filtering out more than you can imagine. The room around you? You're only noticing a fraction of it. The thoughts drifting through your head? You're only aware of a tiny sliver. The truth is, you don't see the world as it is. You see the world as your mind allows you to. It's strange, isn't it? To think that at any moment, something could be happening right in front of you. Something obvious, something glaring, and yet your mind could erase it entirely. It makes you wonder, how much have you missed? How many times in life have you been so focused on one thing that you completely overlooked another? How often has something stood right in front of you, waiting to be seen, but your mind kept it hidden in the shadows? Think about conversations you've had, moments you've lived, paths you've walked. How many invisible gorillas have passed through your life unnoticed? A person who needed help, but you were too busy to notice? An opportunity that walked right by, but your focus was elsewhere? A thought, an idea, a truth, right in front of you, yet completely unseen. The more you think about it, the more unsettling it becomes. Reality, it seems, is less about what's out there and more about what your mind decides to let in. This experiment doesn't just challenge how you see the world, it forces you to question how your brain builds your reality. You may believe you are fully aware, fully conscious, fully in control. But in truth, your mind is like a stage where only a few performers get the spotlight. Everything else, the background, the hidden details, the unexpected intruders, remains in the dark. Not because they don't exist, but because your attention never invited them in. And here's where it gets even stranger. The more you believe you are immune to this illusion, the more vulnerable you actually are. Studies show that people who assume they would notice the gorilla are just as blind as everyone else. The brain's filtering system is relentless. It decides, without your permission, what deserves your attention and what gets erased. It is both your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. Right now, as you listen, your mind is performing this trick again. There are sounds around you that you've tuned out. Maybe the faint hum of electricity, the rustle of fabric, the distant murmur of the world outside. Your brain discards them because they seem unimportant, but the moment you notice them, they become real. The same thing happens with ideas, with truths, with possibilities. They exist, but unless your mind allows them in, they remain invisible. This is why awareness is not just about seeing, it's about opening yourself up to the unseen. It's about realizing that at any given moment, there is more than what meets the eye. It's about questioning whether the world you perceive is the whole picture, or just a carefully edited version tailored by your mind's priorities. And yet, this illusion is necessary. Imagine if you noticed everything, all at once, the tiny movements in your peripheral vision, the way your breath subtly shifts your body, the microscopic details of every sound. It would be overwhelming. Your brain filters reality not to deceive you, but to protect you. It allows you to focus, to function, to survive. But in doing so, it also hides the unexpected, the strange, the things that might just change your perspective forever. So as you lie there, letting your thoughts settle, ask yourself, what else have you been missing? Not just in this moment, but in life. What assumptions have you carried without question? What patterns have you followed without noticing? What truths have stood right in front of you, waiting, unnoticed, unseen? The invisible gorilla experiment is more than a simple trick. It is an invitation to slow down, to expand your awareness, to consider the possibility that there is always more than meets the eye. And maybe, just maybe, by questioning what you think you know, you'll start to see the gorillas that have been hiding in plain sight all along. Let go of the need to control what enters your mind. Let thoughts drift in and out like waves on a shore. There's no rush, no urgency, just awareness expanding effortlessly. The world is full of invisible details, hidden patterns, unnoticed moments. But right now, none of that matters. All that matters is this feeling of calm, this deep sense of ease, as you allow yourself to drift deeper into sleep. The false memory effect. Memory feels solid, doesn't it? Like a book written in ink stored safely in the library of your mind. You can open it, flip through its pages, revisit old moments exactly as they happened. The laughter of a childhood friend, the scent of rain on a summer afternoon, the way a loved one's voice used to sound. These memories feel real, untouchable. But what if they weren't? What if some of them were illusions, carefully crafted by your own mind, shaping a past that never truly existed? This is the false memory effect, a strange and unsettling trick of the brain. It happens when you recall something that never actually occurred, or when your mind twists small details, turning a memory into something entirely different from the truth. Right now, as you listen, your mind is a storyteller, piecing together fragments, filling in gaps, smoothing out inconsistencies. And sometimes, without you even realizing it, it changes the story entirely. Picture this. You're talking with an old friend about a memory you both share. You describe the way it happened, the place, the time, the people involved. But then, they shake their head. That's not how it was, they say. You weren't even there. And suddenly a deep unease washes over you. You remember it so clearly. The scene, the emotions, the tiny details. But if they're right, if you were never there, then where did this memory come from? This phenomenon is more common than you think. Your mind doesn't store memories like a video recording. It reconstructs them piece by piece every time you recall them. And with each retelling, the details shift, morph, bend to fit a new narrative. A word misremembered, a color changed, a face blurred into someone else's. Your mind, trying to be helpful, fills in the gaps with its best guess. But sometimes, those guesses are wrong. Think about dreams, how they feel real while you're inside them. How you wake up convinced that something happened, only to realize later that it was never real at all. False memories work the same way. The brain doesn't always distinguish between what actually happened and what it imagined. And once a false memory is created, it can feel just as vivid, just as real, as something that truly took place. There have been experiments where people were shown fake photographs of childhood events that never happened. And yet, after seeing the image, they remembered the event, details and all. They could describe what they were wearing, how they felt, even things that supposedly happened before and after the moment. The mind, when presented with a suggestion, will often build a reality around it. Right now, as you relax, think about your own past, the moments that shaped you, the memories you carry with you every day. Are they all real? Or has time rewritten them in ways you've never noticed? Perhaps a conversation went differently than you recall. Perhaps a place you once visited was never quite the way you remember. Perhaps some of your strongest memories, the ones that define who you are illusions, gently shaped by your mind over the years. And yet, does it matter? If a memory feels real, if it carries meaning, if it has guided your choices and emotions, then isn't it real in its own way? Perhaps reality isn't about accuracy, it's about perception. Your memories, real or not, are part of your story. And maybe, just maybe, the beauty of memory isn't in its truth, but in its ability to shape your journey. Let yourself sink into that thought, that every moment, every recollection is a fragile thing. That the past isn't fixed, it's fluid, ever-changing. And in that uncertainty, there's a kind of peace, a gentle letting go, a quiet acceptance that the mind will always weave its own version of reality. Breathe in and let yourself drift deeper into that thought. The feeling of time unraveling, the weight of the past dissolving, memories flickering like candle flames, soft and warm, changing shape with every passing breeze. There's no need to hold on to them too tightly. Just let them flow like water slipping through your fingers. And as you drift further into sleep, imagine your memories like stars in the night sky. Some bright and clear, others distant and fading. Some real, some illusions, but all of them part of the same endless expanse. A story written in the cosmos of your mind, shifting, shimmering, stretching into eternity. The choice paradox. Choice is supposed to be a gift, a sign of freedom. The more options you have, the more control you possess. At least, that's what we've always believed. But what if too many choices don't set you free, but trap you instead? What if the very thing meant to empower you is the same thing weighing you down? Right now, as you listen, as your thoughts begin to settle, imagine yourself standing before an endless row of doors. Each one leads somewhere different. Some open to comfort, some to adventure, some to love, some to uncertainty. You could step through any of them, and yet you hesitate. Not because you don't want to move forward, but because you don't know which door to choose. This is the choice paradox, the strange, unsettling truth that too many options don't make life easier, they make it harder. The more choices you have, the more pressure you feel to make the right one. And the more you worry that whichever path you take, another, better one is slipping away. Right now as you lie there, let that feeling melt away. There's no need to choose, no pressure to decide. Just the gentle realization that sometimes fewer choices bring more peace. Think about something as simple as buying a jar of honey. You walk into a store expecting to grab one and leave, but when you get to the aisle, there are 50 different kinds. Organic, raw, clover, manuka, wildflower, infused with lemon, infused with ginger. You stand there, staring, feeling the weight of a decision that shouldn't be this hard. Finally, you pick one. But as you leave, a thought lingers. Did I make the best choice? The mind does this with everything. The more options you have, the more restless you become. Instead of feeling satisfied with what you chose, you start wondering about what you didn't. What if the other honey tasted better? What if it was healthier? What if you just made the wrong decision? The irony is cruel. The more freedom you have, the less content you feel. Now think about your life. The crossroads you've stood at, the decisions you've made, the roads you've walked. How many times have you made a choice only to later wonder if another path would have been better? A different job, a different city, a different relationship. How often have you looked back, not with certainty, but with doubt? And yet, in all those moments of hesitation, of second-guessing, of feeling paralyzed by choice, what was it that you really wanted? Was it the perfect decision? Or was it simply peace? The kind of peace that comes not from making the right choice, but from letting go of the need for perfection. From realizing that no matter which path you take, there will always be doors left unopened. And that's okay, because the truth is, no matter what you choose, you can never experience every possibility. You will never know what's behind every door. You will never live every alternate version of your life. And if you try to, if you hold on to every what if you chase every path at once, you will never truly enjoy the one you're on. So let yourself breathe. Let the weight of decisions drift away. There is no perfect choice. There never was, and there never will be. There is only this moment, this breath, this quiet space where nothing needs to be decided, nothing needs to be solved. just a gentle surrender to the idea that whatever choice you've made, it was enough. Think of the ocean, how it moves effortlessly, never pausing to wonder if one wave should have taken a different path. The water simply flows, accepting its course, never resisting the direction it's meant to go. There is no anxiety in the ocean, no hesitation, just movement, just trust, just the quiet rhythm of something greater than itself. And maybe that's the secret. To live like the waves. To trust that wherever you are, whatever choices brought you here, you are exactly where you need to be. The paths you didn't take, they exist only in imagination. The only path that matters is the one beneath your feet, the one carrying you forward, the one that, no matter how uncertain it may seem, is always leading you somewhere. Breathe in that feeling, the release, the surrender, the knowledge that you are not lost, that you never were, that every choice, whether right or wrong, has led you to this moment. And in this moment, you are safe, you are still, you are at peace. Let your mind wander to the stars. Think of how many possible realities exist, how many versions of life could have unfolded, and yet here you are, in this one, right now. Not by accident, not by mistake, but because this is the path meant for you. And as you sink deeper, as your thoughts drift like waves rolling gently to shore, let go of the need to know what comes next. The future will arrive in its own time. The choices will come when they need to. But for now, none of that matters. For now, there is only stillness. There is only quiet. There is only sleep. The illusion of free will. You feel like you are in control, don't you? Every decision, every action, every step you take, it all feels like it comes from you. Your choices are yours alone, shaped by your thoughts, your desires, your will. But what if that's just an illusion? What if the path you walk was never really yours to choose? Right now, as you listen, as you settle into the quiet stillness of this moment, let your mind drift into a question as old as time. Are you truly free? Or is your every move, your every thought, a ripple from forces beyond your control? Think about the last decision you made. Maybe it was something small. What to eat, what to wear, which words to say in a passing conversation. You probably felt like you had full control over that choice. But was it really yours? Or was it shaped by something deeper? Your upbringing, your habits, your emotions, your biology? Long before you made that choice, something set the stage for it. Your mind, your body, your past experiences, they all guided you toward a decision before you were even aware of it. Imagine a row of dominoes, standing tall, waiting for the first one to fall. Each piece, perfectly lined up, waiting for the inevitable chain reaction. The moment that first domino is pushed, the rest will follow, one after another, in a pattern that can no longer be stopped. Now ask yourself, where is free will in that? If every event is caused by something before it, if every thought is a result of a past experience, then at what point does true choice begin? Science has tried to answer this question. In studies, researchers have observed brain activity before a person consciously decides to do something. Before you even know what choice you're going to make, your brain has already made it. A signal fires, a decision forms in the unconscious, and only after that, a fraction of a second later, do you become aware of it. You feel like you just made a choice, but in reality, your mind had already set it in motion before you even realized it. And yet, you still feel free, don't you? You still feel like you're steering the ship. That's because the illusion of free will is powerful, necessary even. Without it, life would feel meaningless. How could you move forward if you believed that every step was already decided for you? How could you embrace joy, love, or ambition if you thought it was all just a pre-written script? So your mind convinces you, you are in control, even when, beneath the surface, the currents of fate are already pulling you forward. It's like a dream where you believe you are making choices, when in reality, the dream is guiding you. Every road you take, every turn you make, it all feels deliberate, yet the dream was always in control. You never truly decided where to go. You only followed the path it laid out for you. And maybe life works the same way. Maybe you are dreaming right now, moving through a story already written, believing that you are the author, when, in reality, you are simply reading the words as they appear. But here's the strange part. If free will is an illusion, then so is regret, so is doubt, so is the worry that you made the wrong choice. Because if you were never truly in control, then every decision you've ever made was the only one you could have made. There was never another path. There was never another version of you making a different choice. There was only this, the path that led you here, to this exact moment. And that realization is freeing. It means you don't have to carry the weight of every decision. You don't have to replay the past, wondering if you should have done things differently, because you never really had a choice. The past was never something you could change. And the future? It will unfold exactly as it must, whether you tried to control it or not. So let go. Let yourself sink into the comfort of inevitability. The universe has already decided where the next moment will take you. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to figure everything out. Just float, like a leaf carried by the wind, moving effortlessly, without resistance. There is no need to choose a direction. The wind will take you where you need to go. Think about the waves in the ocean. They don't decide when to rise or fall. They simply follow the pull of the tide, the quiet force of the moon above, the whispers of gravity that have shaped their movement since the beginning of time. And yet, in their surrender, there is beauty. They do not struggle, they do not question. They simply exist, flowing in harmony with forces greater than themselves. And maybe, just maybe, that is the most peaceful way to live. Not by trying to control everything, not by overanalyzing every decision, but by trusting the flow of life. By understanding that every moment is exactly as it was meant to be. That your thoughts, your desires, your actions, whether they are truly yours or just echoes of something deeper, are unfolding in perfect rhythm with the universe itself. Feel that truth settle in your mind. The weight lifting, the tension fading. There is nothing to control, nothing to fear, nothing to regret. There is only this moment, this breath, this gentle surrender to the path that is already unfolding before you. And as your mind drifts deeper into sleep, imagine yourself floating through the cosmos. No resistance, no struggle, just drifting effortlessly through a vast and endless universe, carried by forces unseen, embraced by the quiet, infinite flow of existence. The grandfather paradox. Time is a river, flowing endlessly forward, carrying us along in its current. But what if you could step outside of it? What if, in the quiet depths of night, as your thoughts begin to slow, you could slip through time itself, traveling backward to a moment long before you were born? Imagine standing there, in the past, watching history unfold as if it were happening for the first time. The world looks familiar, yet distant, like an old dream that has come back to life. But then a single thought creeps in, one that bends reality in ways the mind can barely comprehend. What happens if you change something? That's where the paradox begins. A simple idea, yet one that unravels the very fabric of existence. Suppose you travel back in time and meet your grandfather before he ever had children. Suppose, in a moment of impulse, you change the course of his life, preventing him from meeting your grandmother, stopping the chain of events that would have led to your own birth. But if you were never born, then how could you have traveled back in time in the first place? How could you have been there to alter history? The contradiction loops endlessly, twisting logic into an impossible knot. You exist because of the past, but if you change the past in a way that erases your existence, then you could never have gone back to change it at all. Time folds in on itself, an infinite loop with no beginning and no end. A paradox that defies reason, yet lingers in the corners of possibility, waiting to pull you deeper into its mystery. Think about that for a moment. Let it settle in your mind. Time, something we think of as linear and absolute, suddenly feels fragile, something that can be rewritten, yet never fully undone. If you step back into the past and change a single detail, does time correct itself? Does it snap back like a rubber band, finding a way to preserve the present no matter what? Or does reality shatter into countless alternate timelines, each one spiraling into its own strange and unpredictable future? Maybe you don't disappear if you alter the past. Maybe instead, you create a split, a fork in the river of time, where two versions of reality now exist, one where you were born and one where you never were. Two worlds, parallel and disconnected, yet both equally real. But if that's the case, then how many other versions of reality could there be? How many alternate timelines, each shaped by the smallest of changes? A choice you made, a path you didn't take, a whisper of something that could have been, but never was. It's strange to think about, isn't it? The idea that time might not be as rigid as we believe, that every moment, every decision might be splintering reality into something new. Right now, as you listen, there could be another version of you in another timeline, making a different choice, living a different life. A life shaped by a single, tiny variation, one you may never even be aware of. But if time is so fragile, so easily changed, then what does that say about the present? Is this moment truly fixed, or is it just another ripple in an ever-shifting sea of possibilities? The thought is both unsettling and strangely comforting. Because if reality can be rewritten, then nothing is ever truly lost. Every regret, every missed opportunity, every path not taken, it may all still exist somewhere in some version of time. And if that's true, then maybe you don't have to hold on so tightly to the choices you've made. Maybe you don't have to fear the unknown, because somewhere in another thread of reality, another version of you is living out every possibility. There is no single path, no single destiny, just an endless expanse of time unfolding in infinite directions all at once. Feel that weight begin to lift. The idea that no moment is permanent, that no decision is final. Time is not a straight line. It's a vast, shifting ocean, and you are merely floating upon its waves. There is no right or wrong direction. There's only movement, only flow. Only the quiet certainty wherever you are exactly where you need to be. So let your mind drift. Let the paradox of time wash over you, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a lullaby of infinite possibilities. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to grasp its meaning. Just let it carry you gently into the depths of sleep. Imagine yourself floating beyond time itself. No past, no future, only the endless now, stretching out in every direction. A space where nothing needs to be decided, nothing needs to be changed. A space where you can simply be. And in that stillness, in that quiet vastness, let yourself surrender to the peace of knowing that in some way you exist in every version of time. That no matter where the currents of reality take you, you are always part of something greater. And as your thoughts grow softer, as the last pieces of wakefulness fade away, let yourself dissolve into the timeless void, weightless, free. There is nothing left to hold on to, no questions, no answers. Just the soothing embrace of the universe itself, whispering that all is as it should be. The observer effect. There is something strange about the way reality behaves. It moves, it shifts, it unfolds, but only when someone is watching. The universe does not simply exist as we think it does. It waits, it pauses, it holds its breath until an observer is there to witness it. And only then, as if waking from a long sleep, does it take shape. This is the mystery of the observer effect, a quiet paradox woven into the fabric of existence itself. Imagine for a moment that you are standing before a vast, endless ocean. The water stretches as far as the eye can see, perfectly still, perfectly silent. You take a step closer, watching the surface ripple beneath your gaze. But was it always like this? Or did the ocean only move because you were there to see it? The same question lingers in the heart of quantum mechanics, where particles do not seem to choose a state until they are observed. Scientists have found something astonishing. When they watch a particle, it behaves differently than when it is left alone. It is as if the simple act of looking changes reality itself, forcing the universe to make a decision. Before it is observed, a particle is in a state of uncertainty, existing in all possible forms at once. It is both here and there, both moving and still. But the moment an observer looks, the possibilities collapse into one. It's a haunting thought, isn't it? That reality does not simply unfold on its own, but waits for an audience. That things are not just what they are, but what they become when seen. The air around you, the light in the room, the very thoughts drifting through your mind, how much of it exists as you believe it does? And how much of it is only taking shape because you are here to perceive it? Close your eyes and imagine yourself in an empty space, a void untouched by sight, by thought, by observation. What does it look like? What does it feel like? The truth is, you cannot know, because the moment you try to picture it, you have already changed it. The simple act of imagining transforms the emptiness into something. Your mind, your awareness, gives it form, gives it meaning. And so you begin to wonder, what does this say about life itself? If the universe behaves differently when watched, then what does that mean for your own existence? Do you only become real when someone sees you? Do you change depending on who is watching? Maybe you are not one fixed version of yourself, but an endless number of possibilities, shifting and shaping into whatever the moment requires. Think back to a time when you were alone, truly alone. No one was there to see you, to hear you, to judge you. In that moment, were you the same person you are now? Or did you become something different the instant someone entered the room? We are never quite the same when we are being observed. We stand a little straighter, we smile a little differently, we choose our words more carefully. And in doing so, we collapse into one version of ourselves, one of many that could have existed. But which version is real? The one that others see, or the one that exists in the quiet moments when no one is watching? Or perhaps both are real in their own way. Perhaps we are always shifting, always changing, caught between the possibilities of who we could be. Just like the particle that waits for an observer to decide its fate, we, too, exist in a state of uncertainty until the world forces us to choose. And yet, there is something comforting about this. It means that nothing is set in stone. You are not bound to one single identity, one single fate. You are fluid, adaptable, a wave that has not yet become a particle. You are possibility itself, waiting for the right moment to take shape. So let go of the need to be just one thing. Let go of the weight of expectation, the fear of being misunderstood. You are not a fixed point in space. You are movement. You are change. You are infinite. And as you listen, as your breath slows, as the world around you softens into the quiet hum of the night, let yourself dissolve into that infinite possibility. Feel yourself drifting, unobserved, free. No one is watching. No one is expecting anything from you. In this moment, you are not confined to any role, any thought, any past or future. You are simply here, existing in the in-between, in the endless space where all things are still possible. The world fades, the thoughts quiet. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to shape. You do not need to be seen. You do not need to be understood. You can simply be, floating, untethered, in a universe that only takes shape when you are ready to see it again. And as your mind drifts further, as sleep pulls you deeper into the unknown, let yourself rest in the gentle truth that you are not bound by one version of reality. You are limitless. You are undefined. You are a wave, waiting to become whatever it is meant to be. The Ship of Theseus. Imagine a ship, strong and steady, cutting through the waves with the grace of something built to last. This ship, known as the Ship of Theseus, has sailed for years, braving storms and sunlit seas alike. But time, as always, leaves its mark. The wood begins to wear, the planks creak under the weight of countless voyages, and one by one, the ship's parts are replaced. A mast here, a sail there, a beam, a bolt aboard, until after many years, not a single original piece remains. And so a question arises, one that lingers like a whisper on the edge of the mind. Is it still the same ship? This question is not just about wood and nails. It is about something deeper. Something that stretches far beyond the waves. It is about you, about me, about everything that changes yet somehow remains. If something is rebuilt, piece by piece, does it stay the same? Or does it become something new? And if that ship is still Theseus's ship, then what about us? Every cell in your body is replaced over time. The hands that once held childhood toys are not the same hands you have now. The face you see in the mirror today is not the same one from years ago. You are a collection of moments, of memories, of thoughts that drift and change with each passing day. And yet, despite all of this, you are still you. Aren't you? Or maybe you are someone else, someone new, with every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise that brings another version of you into existence. Perhaps identity is not something fixed, but something fluid, like a river that keeps flowing, never holding on to the same drop of water, yet still called by the same name. But the paradox does not end there. What if, while Theseus's ship was being rebuilt, someone gathered all the discarded pieces and put them back together? There, before you, stands another ship, one made entirely of the original materials, unchanged and whole once more. Which one, then, is the real Ship of Theseus? The one that has continued its journey, evolving with time? Or the one built from its past, frozen in the form it once had? And now, ask yourself this. If someone took every memory you had, every thought, every experience, and placed them into another mind, would that person still be you? Would you exist in two places at once? Or would you fade, like the pieces of the ship, into something unrecognizable? Perhaps identity is not a single thing, but a story, a tale that we tell ourselves, weaving together the fragments of who we were and who we are becoming. Perhaps you are not a single person, but many people, stitched together by time, by experience, by the silent understanding that even as you change, you remain. Close your eyes for a moment and think of all the versions of yourself that have existed. The child who once laughed at the simplest joys, the teenager who dreamed of something greater, the person you were yesterday, with thoughts and worries that may already feel distant. They are all you, yet they are gone, replaced by the you that exists in this very moment. And yet, despite this endless cycle of change, you never feel lost. You never wake up as a stranger to yourself. There is always a thread that connects each version, binding them into one unbroken line. And so, the question fades, not because it has been answered, but because the answer no longer matters. The Ship of Theseus is still Theseus's ship, just as you are still you, no matter how much time reshapes you. There is no single point at which you stop being yourself, no moment where you vanish and become someone else. You are both the ship and its reflection, both the present and the past, both the journey and the vessel that carries you forward. So let go of the need to define yourself in rigid terms. Let go of the fear of change, the worry that you may lose yourself along the way. You are not something that can be lost. You are something that continues, something that moves, that grows, that evolves. Feel that truth settle into your mind, soft and warm, like a tide washing over the shore. You do not have to hold on to the past to remain yourself. You do not have to fear the future, wondering who you will become, because no matter how much you change, no matter how many pieces are replaced, you will always be whole. Let that thought carry you, like a ship on a quiet sea, drifting gently into the night. There is nothing to cling to, nothing to resist. Just the slow, steady rhythm of the waves, guiding you toward sleep. And as you drift, know this: you are not just one thing, you are many things, layered upon each other like the pages of a book, a story that is still being written. And as your breathing slows, as the weight of wakefulness fades, let yourself rest in the comfort of that thought, that no matter what changes, no matter what parts of you shift and grow, you will always be you, always moving forward, always continuing, like the Ship of Theseus, sailing into the endless unknown. The paradox of the infinite hotel picture, if you will, a hotel that stretches beyond the limits of imagination. A place so vast, so endless, that it holds an infinite number of rooms, each occupied, yet somehow never truly full. This is Hilbert's Hotel, a thought experiment in the strange and wondrous nature of infinity. It is a place where logic bends, where common sense unravels, and where space itself stretches in ways that defy understanding. And yet, as we explore its endless corridors, you may find that this hotel is not just a curiosity of mathematics, but a reflection of something deeper, something about the nature of existence itself. Imagine walking up to the front desk of this grand, infinite hotel. The bell rings softly as you step inside, and a polite, well-dressed receptionist greets you with a knowing smile. You ask for a room, but the answer is unexpected. I'm afraid the hotel is completely full. Every single room, from the first to the billionth, from the billionth to the trillionth, is occupied. And yet, before you can turn away, the receptionist offers a solution. But don't worry, we can still make space for you. How? It seems impossible. If every room is taken, then surely there is no space left. But infinity does not play by ordinary rules. With a simple request, the receptionist instructs every guest to shift. The guest in room 1 moves to room 2. The guest in room 2 moves to room 3. The guest in room 3 moves to room 4, and so on endlessly, each guest shifting one space down the line. And just like that, room 1 is empty, waiting for you to step inside. The paradox settles in. How can something that is already full still have room for more? How can something that has reached its limit continue to grow? The answer lies in the very nature of infinity. It is boundless, endless, a concept that defies the limits we are used to. It is not a number that can be reached, not a container that can overflow. It is something different entirely, something that stretches in ways the mind struggles to grasp. And yet, there is something deeply comforting about this idea. Because if infinity can always make room, if something that seems full can still expand, then perhaps the same is true for you. Perhaps there is no final version of yourself, no fixed point where you must stop growing, stop changing, stop becoming. There will always be space for more experiences, more knowledge, more understanding, more possibilities. Now imagine something stranger. A bus arrives outside the hotel, but this is no ordinary bus. It carries an infinite number of new guests, each waiting for a place to stay. Surely now there must be no room left. And yet, with another simple shift, the impossible becomes possible once more. This time, each guest moves to a room that is double their current number. The guest in room 1 moves to room 2. The guest in room 2 moves to room 4. The guest in room 3 moves to room 6. Each guest finds themselves in an even-numbered room, leaving all the odd-numbered rooms empty, an infinite number of spaces suddenly available as if they had been waiting all along. It is as if the universe itself is whispering a secret, that limits are often illusions, that boundaries are rarely as fixed as they seem, that even when you think you have reached the edge, there is still more beyond it. More roads to walk, more doors to open, more paths waiting to be discovered. Close your eyes and picture yourself wandering through the endless hallways of this hotel. The doors stretch forever, their numbers climbing higher and higher, never reaching an end. There is no last door, no final stop, no point at which it all simply ceases. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for you. Maybe there is no final version of who you are meant to be. No single point at which you must have all the answers, all the certainty, all the pieces in place. Maybe you, like this hotel, are infinite in your capacity to grow, to expand, to become something new. And just as the hotel can always make room for more, so too can you. More wisdom, more kindness, more understanding of yourself and the world around you. There is always space, always possibility, always another door waiting to be opened. So let go of the feeling that you must have everything figured out. Let go of the worry that you must be complete, that you must reach some final, perfect state. Perfection is an illusion, and completion is just another word for stopping. But you are not meant to stop. You are meant to continue, to learn, to shift, to expand in ways you never imagined. Feel yourself sinking into that truth, letting it settle into the quiet corners of your mind. You do not need to rush, do not need to force an ending where none is needed. You have all the time in the world, all the space in the world, to grow, to change, to evolve. And as sleep gently tugs at your thoughts, let yourself drift into that boundless, infinite space, a space where there are no limits, no walls, no edges. Just the soft, endless stretch of possibility, cradling you in its embrace. Tomorrow will come, and with it, new doors to open, new spaces to explore. But for now, rest in the knowledge that you are part of something infinite. That no matter how full life may seem, there is always room for more. Zeno's paradoxes. There is a road before you, stretching into the distance, lined with soft lights that flicker like stars fallen from the sky. You take a step forward, feeling the smooth path beneath your feet, but then, something strange, a question, quiet yet insistent, settles in your mind. Before you can reach the end of the road, you must first reach the halfway point. And before you reach halfway, you must reach a quarter of the way. And before that, an eighth, then a 16th, then a 32nd. The divisions go on, slicing each step into smaller and smaller distances, breaking the journey into an infinite series of steps. And so the question arises, how do you ever move forward at all? This is Zeno's paradox of motion, a puzzle as old as time itself, a whisper from the past that still lingers in the quiet corners of the mind. It suggests something impossible, that movement is an illusion, that every step is infinitely divided, that to arrive anywhere at all, you must complete an endless number of tasks. And yet, despite this paradox, you walk forward every day. You move, you change, you arrive. So how can it be that logic and reality seem to disagree? Close your eyes for a moment and picture an arrow soaring through the air. It cuts through the wind, swift and certain, its path clear. But Zeno presents another paradox, another way in which motion seems to dissolve into impossibility. At any given moment, if you freeze time, the arrow is standing still. It is not moving forward, not shifting, not changing. It simply is. And if at every instant the arrow is frozen in place, then how does it ever move at all? It is a thought that invites stillness, that slows the world to a quiet pause. If time itself can be broken into smaller and smaller fragments, then is there ever a moment when anything is truly moving? Or is all movement simply an illusion, a trick of perception, a series of frozen instances strung together like the frames of an old film reel? And yet you feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath, the steady beating of your heart, the soft shift of time as it carries you forward, whether you notice it or not. Zeno's paradoxes are not barriers to movement, they are doorways to understanding, invitations to look deeper into the mysteries of reality. Perhaps motion is not a series of frozen steps, but something fluid, something that cannot be broken into pieces without losing its essence. Maybe life itself is like that, a continuous stream, not a collection of moments, not a set of fixed snapshots, but something whole, something that cannot be captured in fragments. And so you walk down the road, unbothered by the paradox, untroubled by the thought that your journey is divided into infinite steps. Because you know something that Zeno did not say, that movement is not about calculation, not about breaking things into smaller and smaller parts. Movement simply is. And perhaps the same is true for change. You are not a series of separate versions of yourself, not a collection of past and future selves that must be added together. You are a single, flowing existence, moving forward in ways that cannot be measured, cannot be broken into pieces. The past does not hold you. The future does not push you. You are here, in this moment, and that is enough. Let that thought settle deep within you, like the slow drift of waves on a quiet shore. You do not need to solve every paradox, do not need to untangle every thread of logic. Some things are meant to be felt, not solved. And so, as sleep begins to pull you into its embrace, imagine yourself as the arrow in flight, not frozen, not divided into pieces, but soaring effortlessly, carried by something greater than logic, greater than thought. There is no need to force it, no need to grasp at answers. Let yourself move forward, as naturally as the arrow, as effortlessly as the road stretching before you. Let go of the need to measure each step, to divide each moment into parts. There is only this gentle, endless flow carrying you softly into the night. The Ship of Theseus. Imagine a ship, old and weathered, sailing across the endless sea. This ship, known as the Ship of Theseus, has traveled through storms and sunlight, through calm waters and restless waves. But as time passes, its wooden planks begin to rot, its sails grow tattered, its mast weakens under the weight of the years. Slowly, piece by piece, the ship is repaired. A new plank replaces an old one. A fresh sail is woven where the old one tore, a sturdier mast takes the place of the original. And so, the journey continues. But a question lingers in the air like a whisper carried by the wind. If every single part of the ship has been replaced over time, is it still the same ship? Is the Ship of Theseus still the Ship of Theseus? Or has it become something entirely new? Let that question settle in your mind, soft and unhurried, because in many ways, you are the Ship of Theseus. The person you were years ago, the child who laughed at simple joys, the teenager who dreamed of distant futures, the adult who carries the weight of experience, they are all versions of you, yet none of them remain unchanged. Every cell in your body has been replaced over time. The thoughts you once held have shifted, evolved, deepened. The dreams you carried have transformed, sometimes growing, sometimes fading, sometimes becoming something unrecognizable. And yet here you are, still you. Still moving forward, still carrying the essence of something that remains, even as everything changes. So what is it that makes you, you? Is it your body, your thoughts, your memories? If everything about you shifts, piece by piece, what remains? Perhaps the answer is not found in a single moment, but in the continuity of your existence, the quiet thread that weaves through every version of yourself, connecting who you were to who you are and who you will become. Now imagine something even stranger. Suppose every plank, every nail, every part that was removed from the original ship was saved, set aside, and eventually reassembled into a second ship, an exact replica of the first. Which one, then, is the real Ship of Theseus, the one that was gradually replaced over time, or the one built from its original pieces? It is a paradox of identity, of existence, of what it truly means to be something, or someone. But perhaps there is no single answer. Perhaps identity is not a fixed point, not a single unchanging essence, but a story, a journey, a movement, a continuous becoming. And so, as you drift toward sleep, let yourself sink into that gentle realization. You do not have to be who you were yesterday. You do not have to cling to old definitions, old labels, old fears. Change is not the loss of identity. It is the very thing that keeps you alive, that keeps you growing, that keeps you moving forward. Like the ship on the open sea, you are meant to evolve, to adapt, to shed what no longer serves you and embrace what carries you onward. You are not bound to the past, nor trapped in the present. You are a fluid, shifting, ever-unfolding existence, as endless as the ocean itself. So let go of the fear of change. Let go of the worry that you must remain the same, that you must hold on to pieces of yourself that no longer fit. Embrace the quiet truth that change is not an ending. It is a continuation, a transformation, a gentle unfolding into something new. And as sleep gently takes you in its arms, imagine yourself as the ship, floating effortlessly on calm waters. The stars above guide you, the waves beneath carry you, and the journey stretches endlessly ahead. There is no destination to rush toward, no final version of yourself to reach. There is only the movement, the soft, steady drift of time, the quiet knowing that no matter how much you change, you are always and will always be you. The Mandela Effect. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the world is not quite as you remember it. You recall events, names, and images with absolute certainty, yet when you look them up, reality tells a different story. That creeping sensation, that unsettling doubt in your own mind, is the very essence of the Mandela Effect. Named after the strange phenomenon where thousands of people distinctly remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, despite history proving he lived until 2013, this psychological mystery challenges the very foundation of memory and perception. But how is it possible for millions of people to misremember the same thing in the same way? Could it be a mere trick of the mind, or is there something deeper at play? The world is full of examples that shake our sense of reality. You might remember the childhood classic The Berenstain Bears, except that in this version of reality, it has always been the Berenstain Bears. You might swear that the Monopoly man wears a monocle, but he never has. Did Darth Vader really say, "Luke, I am your father"? No, he simply said, "No, I am your father." These moments feel like glitches in the fabric of existence, tiny fractures in a world that should remain constant, but somehow isn't. Why do so many people collectively misremember the same things? The unsettling part is that your memory isn't just mistaken, it feels like you're remembering a completely different version of reality. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Mandela Effect is how confident people are in their false memories. They don't just think something happened, they know it did. People argue about it, research it, and sometimes even refuse to accept the truth when presented with hard evidence. It's as if the past has been rewritten while their minds still cling to an older version of reality. But how does this happen? One possibility is the fallibility of human memory. Our brains are not perfect record keepers. They reconstruct memories rather than play them back like a video. As details fade, we unconsciously fill in the gaps with information that seems right, even if it isn't. And if enough people remember something the same way, it starts to feel like objective truth. But what if it's something more than faulty memory? What if our reality is shifting in ways we can't comprehend? Some believe the Mandela Effect is evidence of parallel universes, where tiny differences in timelines have bled into our own. Imagine that in one reality, the Berenstain Bears was spelled exactly as you remember. But due to some imperceptible shift, you now find yourself in a world where it has always been Berenstain. If that were true, then these strange discrepancies aren't just tricks of the mind. They're proof that the world we live in is not as stable as we think. The theory of quantum immortality takes this idea even further. If the universe is constantly branching into infinite possibilities, then perhaps your consciousness has drifted between realities without you even noticing. The version of you in one reality remembers something differently because, in that timeline, it truly happened that way. But somehow you ended up here, where history has been rewritten, yet your mind still clings to echoes of the past. What if every small inconsistency is a clue that you've already traveled through multiple versions of existence? Of course, There's also the unsettling thought that these changes are not accidental at all. Some conspiracy theories suggest that powerful forces, governments, corporations, or even advanced artificial intelligences are altering reality itself. The idea of reality engineering is not as far-fetched as it sounds. In a world where digital information is king, what if facts themselves are being subtly rewritten? A massive hidden influence could be reshaping the world while we remain blissfully unaware. Are memories the only proof that something is amiss? But would we even recognize the deception? Or would we accept the new version of reality without question? In a way, the Mandela Effect reveals something profound about human perception. It reminds us that our memories are fragile, shaped by the collective experience of those around us. The more people misremember something the same way, the more likely it is to become accepted as truth. But this raises an even deeper question. How much of your life is real, and how much is merely a shared illusion? If we can misremember childhood books, movie lines, and historical events, what else might we have completely rewritten in our minds? What if the past itself is more fluid than we ever imagined? As you drift deeper into thought, let your mind wander through the infinite possibilities. Could your entire life be just a carefully constructed memory, pieced together by unseen forces? Could history itself be nothing more than a consensus, a fragile agreement between minds rather than an objective truth? And if that's the case, what happens when that agreement begins to break down? Feel yourself relaxing as you let these questions wash over you. There is no need to answer them, only to explore them. Let your mind roam freely, drifting across timelines and realities. The world as you know it is not as solid as it seems, and perhaps that is the most comforting thought of all. Because if reality is malleable, if memory itself can shift, then nothing is ever truly lost. Perhaps in some far-off place, the version of reality you remember still exists. Perhaps, in another world, things really did happen the way you recall. And maybe, just maybe, you'll wake up tomorrow and find yourself in a universe where everything is just as you always believed. For now, let your mind slip further into the void, carried by the gentle currents of uncertainty. The world around you fades into darkness, and all that remains is the soft hum of possibility, the quiet murmur of shifting realities. Sleep now, and let your consciousness drift. Perhaps, when you wake, you'll find yourself in a world that finally makes sense.